Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. This is my third video of Bookmas and I really hope you have enjoyed the previous two and I'm really looking forward to film this one. So the previous video was me going over all the books that I loved reading in 2019 and this video is sort of a sequel to that because in this video I'm specifically going over all the fantasy books that I read in 2019. I'll just say that fantasy is definitely my favorite genre and I love reading all the books here. They are just so very diverse, and nowadays with all the diversity coming in, it's just getting more and more exciting. If you have not read any of these books, I would really recommend you all to pick them up because these are so very diverse reads and I think they'll cater to each one of you because they contain a variety of different themes which are very wide and broad. So I think you will all enjoy them. And without further ado, we'll get right on to it. So before we get into any of that, I have to give you all a disclaimer. Some of these books were actually, all of my books are here. Some of these books were actually review copies that were sent to me in return of an honest review. This is not sponsored or paid. This is not a sponsored or a paid video, and all of the opinions expressed are my own. Now 2019 has been really significant for me in terms of reading fantasy, and that is because this is the year I finally picked up adult fantasy. And the first book series that I'm going to share with you all is One Such Adult Fantasy. I read both of these two books this year and I'm so very glad I did. It is the Daevabad trilogy. I do not have the third book yet. I don't think it's out. But nevertheless, the first book is City of Brass. The second book is Kingdom of Copper. Now, in this book, this is the first book, City of Brass. In this book, we follow Nehri. She is an 18th century woman who is living in Cairo. She is a con woman. And it's so very interesting to see that aspect of her. And everything is going on well for her. However, she mistakenly, summons a jinn, and everything turns sort of haywire for that. And she has to face certain repercussions of calling that jinn, and she has to now travel to this legendary city of Daevabad because there is a certain bond between her and that city. And it is so very interesting to see how she how she comes to realize that whatever she has been thinking was the stuff of fairy tales of childhood, they're actually very real. And in Daevabad we have these 6 different jinn tribes, and it's so cool. And there is court politics, there is friendship, there is adventure, there is a lot of magic, a lot of adventure on magic carpets, and it's the epitome of what I would imagine fantasy set in the Middle East would be. Then in the Kingdom of Copper, this actually follows 5 years after the end of City of Brass, and throughout this book we see the character development of Nahri, how she is coping with a huge loss. I'm not going to give you more spoilers than that, but it's very interesting to see that character growth. The writing style is also very great. The fight sequences are great, and I really love reading this book. While we follow Nahri, we also follow the other 2 princes as they live their lives and grapple with all the secrets they hide from the world. It's so very interesting, and I'm very much looking forward to reading the third book. Also, these books were sent to me by HarperCollins, and I'm so very grateful to them for that. I think HarperCollins really publishes some of the best fantasy series here in India, because apart from this, I have a couple more which were sent to me by HarperCollins as well, and I'm so very glad that I could read these books, and I really enjoy them. If you want certain diversity in your fantasy reads as well, I think this is definitely one you can pick up with. This, as an adult fantasy, was a great point for me to start with. It was not so very complex, a sudden shift for me from reading YA to adult, but nonetheless it was really great. I'm not saying that it wasn't great, obviously, but for me to pick this one up as my first fantasy read was great, and I rated both of these 2 books 5 out of 5 stars. And I'll link the blog posts and everything down below where I shared my reviews, and yeah, definitely recommend it to you all. Moving on, the next book series that I have to share with you all was also sent to me by HarperCollins, and I'm very thankful to them. And it is the Nevernight Chronicles. I really love this book series. And okay, so I've actually first read Aurora Cycle by J. Kristoff, and it was like the author duo J. Kristoff and Amie Kaufman, and I really liked it. I think the writing was very sarcastic and very fun, and so I just knew that I had to pick up more of J. Kristoff's books, and so I think Nevernight was the greatest thing that I could do. And this is another adult fantasy. Now in Nevernight, the first book is Nevernight, the second book is God's Grave, and the third book is Dark Dawn. So in Nevernight, we follow Mia Corvier as she travels to join this Red Church, which is basically a school of excellent assassins, the best assassins in all of the land, and all of this is a part of her quest to destroy the people who destroyed her family. So this was a really interesting book. I think the writing was excellent and the plot was of course amazing. The writer has this habit of including certain footnotes at the bottom of the page, which of course now that I want to show them to you, I cannot come across any. But yeah, what the author does is he writes the whole page and then he includes these certain footnotes at the end, here, and then he includes certain points. Most of these points are about the world, about the political system, a lot of that. So the world building is also going on simultaneously, which I really love and I really enjoyed. It's quite fun. The sarcastic tone is really fun, and I'm sure whoever else has read Nevernight too really likes Mr. Kindly, and I really enjoyed this. This was so very interesting. The political aspect, mostly this desire for vengeance that Mia has, that is one of the most key themes of it that cover all of these 3 books, and I finished this one in like 1 or 2 days, I think. Really short time because I flew through it. I really enjoyed it, and this will definitely stay with me as one of the best fantasy series ever. And most interestingly, in the second book, the setting is that of a Roman gladiator arena, which is really interesting, and I think if you like historical aspects of that, you will really enjoy this book. Themes of fighting, of friendship, everything such as that really comes into play. And most importantly, Mia also come across another Darkin. A Darkin is a person who can basically speak to shadows. Mia is one such person, and this one is another such book where we follow Mia in this arena, and it's so very interesting to see how she strives to fight against all these trained killers, trained fighters in the arena, and not just make it quick, which they do as Red Church assassins, but to put on a show for the enjoyment of the people who are in the arena, just to see people shed blood. And this is quite interesting. The third book is Dark Dawn, which is a brilliant culmination of all of these books. Compared to book 1 and book 2, I think this one had a lot of potential. It could have been a bit better, so I am just a bit disappointed in it, but nonetheless, of course, I'm very biased to the series because it's just amazing. And in this book, the ultimate fight takes place, if I could say that, and it's so very interesting. I cannot the main villain and Mia come to heads in this one, and everything is just so interesting. I mean, I cannot say much about book 2 and 3 without giving away the spoilers, because of course I can't, but you definitely have to read Nevernight, and I promise you that once you start reading this book, you will not be able to put it down unless you finish it. So definitely read this book. So I rated Nevernight 4.5 stars, God's Grave another 4.5 stars, and I rated Dark Dawn 4 out of 5 stars. Another important thing that I almost forgot to tell you all about is because all of these 3 books have amazing illustrations, sorry, not illustrations, just maps, and these are really very interesting. And I'll just show you. This is whole of their land, and then this is God's Grave, where most of the story is set basically. So definitely recommend this series to you all. The next book series that I have to talk to you all about is a crowd favorite, and that is the Shadow and Bone series, or as it is more popularly known, the Grishaverse series. Now, the first book in the series is Shadow and Bone. Then the second book is Siege and Storm, and the third book is Ruin and Rising. Now, all of these three books form the foundation of the world that Leigh Bardugo writes in, that is the Grisha universe or Grishaverse, and it's quite interesting. So basically, in the first book, that is Shadow and Bone, we see a world of which is basically reminiscent of Russia, to be honest, and it's Ravka, Ravka, and it is a shadow of the wonderful ancient power that it had once been, because now in Ravka there is this terrible fold which has ripped Ravka into west and east, sort of, because it has this fold has basically divided all of the people, and it is, you know, full of all these monsters who like to feed on human flesh, and it is a great darkness upon their world. However, we have our heroine Alina Starkov, and as she is, you know, once how do I say it, once traversing across the fold, she shows that she has this dormant power inside of her, which also, you know, in the whole process saves her friend Man's life. And as she, you know, shows that she has this dormant power, she is whisked away to the court of the king, and then she is to be trained under the Darkling, who is basically the commander of all the Grisha, the people who have the different powers in the world of Ravka. And it is so very interesting because, you know, I actually read Crooked Kingdom, Six of Crows, that series first, that duology first, and so in that duology basically Grisha are looked down upon. So in this book where Grisha are actually, you know, these powerful enigmatic I won't say enigmatic, but, you know, alluring and attractive and powerful people, it's quite interesting to see that contrast. And I think Leigh Bardugo's writing in this series is good, but not as good as it was in Six of Crows. Of course, that duology came after this one, so her writing definitely has improved. I love the court politics in this one. It's not that elaborate as in the other series that I showed you all, the Daevabad trilogy, but nonetheless, this is sort of a Bildungsroman because we see the character development of Alina throughout the book, and as she understands how life is when she discovers that she has this power, which of course is a whole new change for her, and it's so very interesting. And then it culminates with sort of a fight on the fold, which is really, really interesting. The fight sequences are also very interesting to read about. I like the writing side of the author, and there are also maps. So this whole of this is Ravka, and this black thing here is the fold, which basically has, you know, divided Ravka into east and west, and that is the whole problem. You cannot cross this without being attacked by all the monsters there, and it's quite very interesting. Of course, you can make that out with all the page text I have included here. I really loved it, and I think this series is really important because it really explores the magic system of the entire Grishaverse. And this, since it's the foundation, you learn more about the Heartrenders, the alchemists, and all of them. We have the corporality, the ethereality, and the materiality. Everything has been written so very clearly in this one, and I was a bit confused when I read Six of Crows because of all the magic aspects, but in this one the author has really expounded on that, so it's quite nice. And in the second book, Siege and Storm, we actually come across the amazing Nikolai, on whom Leigh Bardugo has also written King of Scars, which is actually part one of a duology. I think it's supposed to be a duology. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a duology as opposed to a trilogy. Nonetheless, in this book, we come across that enigmatic privateer, and it's so very interesting. I really love the character of Nikolai. And of course, the other characters also are developed throughout. It's very interesting to see how these people let all the events shape them and change them. I love the characters of Zoya, and I really like the Darkling, even though, you know, he's so dark. I really like him. And I rated all of these books 5 out of 5 stars. Aurora Rising is the culmination of this entire trilogy, and I also rated this one 5 out of 5 stars. Now, all of these 3 books were read by me along with Faguni from Fanatility. We read this as a sort of, buddy read in January, February, and March, 1 book in each month, and it was so very interesting. We really loved doing that, and we had a great time. I'll link her channel details down below. She's a great friend of mine, and you should definitely check out her link, her Instagram, and her blog. I'll link everything down below. You'll really enjoy seeing her work. So yeah, that's it. 5 out of 5 stars to Shadow and Bone trilogy, another fantasy trilogy which I read and loved this year. If you want to start with Leigh Bardugo, then this is definitely the series to start with. Then the next book that I have to share with you all about is also another adult fantasy, and it is humongous. It's high fantasy, and I really loved reading this book, and it is The Priory of the Orange Tree. Now, this was sent to me as a review copy by Bloomsbury, and I'm so thankful to them that they did, because this was such an amazing read. So in this world, as you can see, there are dragons, of course, and the way that these dragons are perceived is different in the different places. In the East, for instance, the people worship them, and we have Tane, a character from this book who is an aspiring dragon writer, and then in the West we have people who absolutely abhor the dragons, and from there we have Eid Duryan, who is a person who has been tasked to protect the Barathnet queen, the Inish queen, sorry, and that queen is Sabran the Ninth, and the whole of that book revolves around these characters. Of course, there are different narratives, different point of views, and it is a very fluidic writing, because when we jump from one character to the other, one perception, one point of view to the other, it is not at all disruptive. It's like I said, very, very fluidic and easy to understand. And the female relationships in these books are very, very inspiring. These females are trying to lift each other up, and it's so very amazing. Apart from Eid Duryan, Tane, and Sabran, we also have Margaret Beck, who is the sister of Artlot Beck, and she is a friend of Eid Duryan and also Sabran. And the way that these females support each other and look after each other, that's very, very nice. Also, there is LGBTQ diversity in this book, and we see a lesbian relationship, and I think this is my first ever book which features a lesbian relationship, and it's quite nice. I think the relationship, the romance was written very, very nicely. It's a slow burn, and I really enjoyed it. It's so good. Despite its huge size, this was read by me in like 5 days, and I buddy read it with my best friend Gayatri, perfectionist. I'll link her details down below, and we're from the same state basically. And it's heavy. If you hit yourself with this book, you're gonna hurt yourself. But yeah, this was a great book. I think I rated it 4.5 or 5 stars. I rated this one 5 stars, and actually this is the finished copy. I bought this one myself. However, Bloomsbury India sent me this proof copy, which I squealed with delight when I saw that I had got this review copy, and I was so very excited, and I was screaming out loud, and it was very great. I think you should definitely pick this one up, because this is amazing. The world building is amazing, the political aspects is amazing, all of the characters, they have such great character arcs, they all grow, and especially that of Sabran, the queen. In the beginning I was a bit indifferent to her character, but then she grows a lot, she goes through a lot, and that's really important. That's really key to how it shapes her, and it's very, very interesting to read, and I really loved it. Again, definitely recommend it to you all. Moving on, the next book that I have to show you all is a sci-fi book that was sent to me by HarperCollins, and I think you've guessed it already, and it is Aurora Rising by J. Kristoff and Amie Kaufman. Like I said, this was a review copy, and if this amazing cover does not influence you to pick this one up ASAP, I don't know what will. But I finished it in like 4 or 5 hours in one sitting basically, and I went crazy after that. This was amazing, and this is a sci-fi book, and I'm not generally very much of a sci-fi reader. They intimidate me, to be honest. However, this one was a great point for me to start with. It was amazing, and this has also been described as Six of Crows but set in space. However, I did not see much similarity, except the fact that there was this crew sort of thing. There was this crew who was doing the adventure. But yeah, it was great. And in this book we see Tyler, who is like the alpha, the leader of the team, and he should have been at his graduation ceremony, but he went out on his plane, and then he discovered this frozen aircraft, sort of, where this girl called Aurora, Ari, I guess that's how you pronounce it, she was trapped for many years, for like 200 years, and then he brings her back, and it's a historical find, of course, to discover someone who had been frozen in time. Now, and throughout the book, we see character fighting with his emotions, because we always see the leaders having this sort of mental or emotional dilemma, like if he's good enough or not, and always thinking that what would have happened if he stayed back at his graduation instead of going out, but then he wouldn't have discovered Ariana. Then we also have Scarlett, I think her name was, yeah, Scarlett. She is Tyler's twin sister, and the bond that both of them have is amazing. She is the diplomat of the whole team, and it's very, very interesting to see. There are other crew members, of course. We have Kat, who is the ace. She's like Tyler's partner, and there is some tension between both of them, and it's so very, very interesting to see. And I think Aurora, like I mentioned, is a girl out of time, quite literally, and how as she tries to understand her situation, get her bearings right, it's very fun to see how she does that, and it's very, 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 very cool. And for a non-sci-fi reader like me, this was a great one to start with, and I really recommend you all to pick it up. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars because I enjoyed it that much. And of course the writing is very, very interactive, because that is significant of both of these characters. And like I said, this is the first J. Kristoff book that I loved, that I read and loved, and that's why I decided to also pick up Nevernight, because it was so hyped up, and definitely that book lived up to the hype as well. And this one too did live up to the hype. I have seen the cover for book 2, and it is just so very, very cool. I just want to get my hands on it ASAP, but yeah, I'll just have to be patient for it. And there are certain, well, I won't exactly say illustrations, but like certain pages which give you information, like this one. And I think this is also there in the Illuminate files, which was also one of J. Kristoff's collaborative works, which is great. I think I really like the way how he makes it all very all-encompassing and interactive in all of his books, even this one, and Illuminate files, then even in the Nevernight Chronicles with all the footnotes. It's very, very interesting, and I'm going off on a tangent, but yeah, definitely pick this one up. It's very, very interesting. And if you are not a sci-fi reader like me, and you're always intimidated by them, then this one is definitely interesting. It's like YA fantasy, sort of YA fantasy, YA sci-fi, so you're bound to enjoy it. And let me just say that the romance in this book is top notch. So the next book that I have to talk to you all about is another sci-fi read, and it was by Brandon Sanderson, and it is Skyward. I really enjoyed it very much, and I rated this one another 5-star. I actually read this book as a part of the underrated book clubs, which is Kajri's book club, Paperbacks and Pen, and I'll link her details down below. She's a dear friend of mine. And well, okay, so in this book we see humanity has been driven almost to extinction, and they are living on a planet which is constantly attacked by all of these alien species, and they are always trying to just survive, basically. And amidst all of this, we have this girl called Spencer. She really wants to be a pilot. However, her father was once a famous pilot, but he apparently fled during one such war, one such flight, or one such fight, and that's why he was termed a traitor, and everybody is unwilling to accept a traitor's daughter into the school. So however, she she discovers something which actually helps her get into the school. Now, the character of Spencer is a bit dramatic, and I think she does go through a considerable change. Her character has a considerable arc throughout, because in the beginning she's very over dramatic, very, very too much in your face, know it all, sort of, and that all changes as she as the book goes on basically. And the fight sequences are amazing. The classroom banter, all of these kids in the classroom as they're trying to learn, basically it's very, very interesting, and it's so reminiscent of the days of your days in schools or college, or in your classroom basically. It's so very interesting. The social system also, how the people are divided into work, is also very interesting to see, because it's kind of in a way reflective of our own society, sort of, or sort of dystopian. Basically, this book is basically I wouldn't really say hardcore sci-fi, because otherwise then me being being a sci-fi virgin, basically I would have found it very, very difficult to understand. However, I did not think it was too difficult, and it went good. And if you've seen Top Gun with Tom Cruise, you'll definitely know that, and you have read this book, you'll definitely relate to my feeling that I think this book really gives you Top Gun vibes, and I really, really enjoyed it, but with a female protagonist. And then we also see that how life is not always, black and white. Sometimes, and most of the times, to be honest, there is a bit of gray in it, and how people deal with that. Some people are like, no, it's either going to be good or bad, but some people do understand how it is to be stuck in the middle, sort of. And it's very, very funny also at times. We have Mbot and Doomslag. I'm not going to tell you who or what they are, but you should definitely read that book, and it was so funny. And the humor aspect, I did not know that Brandon Sanderson wrote humorous stuff. I thought his stuff was very, very serious, and that's why I could not pick it up for so long. I was like sort of hesitant to pick any of Brandon Sanderson books, but I did, and I really, really enjoyed it. I am not yet sure if I ship Jorgen and Spencer or not. I mean, the author has clearly not made romance the main sort of theme here, and I'm quite okay with that. I like the fact that friendship here has taken the front seat, and I really am enjoying that. It's quite a nice change, a nice a nice change from the usual sci-fi, or I won't say sci-fi, but the usual YA fantasy stuff that I read. It's quite nice to see fantasy taking the front, to see friendship taking the front seat as opposed to romance. And I really enjoyed it. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm looking forward to picking up the sequel in the next year. And I hope you all enjoyed this book too. The next series that I have to talk to you about is the amazing The Amie Chronicles series by Helen Schwerer, and it was published by the Tailem Press. And the only reason I came across it was because I was involved in the blog tour, all thanks to Shut Up Sheila. I'm so very glad I did, because this is one amazing series that I think you all should definitely pick it up. The first book in this whole entire trilogy is Heart of Mist, followed by Reign of Mist, and then we have War of Mist, and these 3 books are just amazing. Now, in this world, basically toxic mist has taken over the realm, and we follow the heroine, whose name is Bleak. She is trying to get accustomed to life after the death of her mentor, sort of, and she is dangerously self-medicating with alcohol. So we see addiction is one of the key themes in this book, and it's quite explored throughout the book. Then, however, the commander of the king's army is sent to pick her up and bring her to the king, and then he does pick her up, and they have to go through this forest, and then they are met with the Valia Kindred. And these Valia Kindred are like the Amazonians. They're a group of women who are women fighters basically, and they lay a claim on her as well. And from then on, Bleak realizes that this is a huge fight that she is a part of, and it's quite interesting to see how the story progresses. The writing of this book is very fast-paced, and I really enjoyed it. The world building is also amazing, and the Valiant Kindred's space in the forest basically is really reminiscent of Avatar vibes, James Cameron Avatar, and I really enjoyed reading that part. It's just so amazing as Bleak tries to get accustomed to that life, and the themes, other important themes, like I said, addiction is one, mental health is another, and segregation is also another important theme, especially that is practiced in the among the Valiant people. And I mean, you have mixed thoughts about that, mixed feelings about that, and throughout the series everything changes, of course. I'm not going to give spoilers, but it's very, very interesting to see how it goes. The writing style is also amazing, very fluid, and I love the female power, female empowerment that it evokes throughout the book. It's very, very interesting. So I read this series quite some time ago, and I really enjoyed it. I think I read the first book, Heart of Mist, in just the first day, and then I picked up the rest of the books one after the other, and I just finished these 3 books in just 3 days, and I really enjoyed this book. I wish I had actual hardcovers to show you all, because the covers are so very pretty. And yeah, I rated all of these 3 books 5 out of 5 stars each, and I hope you all will definitely pick them up as well, and you'll tell me how it goes for you. Then the last book that I have to talk to you all about is this dystopian book, which is named The Lupanarium, which is book 1 of The Many Trials of Madeline and Jacques. Now, this is not for the light-hearted, not for the faint-hearted, and I would definitely say that this is an adult book, not a children's book. Now, this book is considered as adult book because it has various themes of child rape, molestation, basically rape culture, and that is why it has some graphic content. There's gore, a lot of that. And however, despite all of these different themes, it is not to be classified as erotica, and I personally rather see it as something of a satire, because it takes a lot from the particular present rape culture that we have, human trafficking, etc. In this world, the slaves are brainwashed into thinking that they can only eat or do such things only after they have sex, which is, I mean, strange, and it really makes you afraid in case the world might turn like that someday, because the writing is very poignant and very raw, and I cannot say that I really enjoyed it. I mean, because the theme is like so strange, but this is definitely a very important book that you should definitely read about, and I quite think that it was a great one. I rated it for 5 stars, and I think this was a great book. And in this world, basically, the people paid to watch the slaves, the sex slaves having sex or being raped, and it's just so stark and poignant. I mean, I think this was a great book. I mean, I'm saying that a lot, but this was definitely something that is not for the faint-hearted, obviously, and it's very great. We have corruption of power, rape culture, which is glorified, human trafficking. The author has taken a lot from the present context, from the present statistics of human trafficking, etc., and the segregation of the slaves as opposed to the elites. The elites are the only people who can experience love. Love is a concept which will be kept alien, which is kept alien from all of these slaves, and it's very interesting. Now, Madeline, who is the main heroine, she is a prodigy in this world, because she basically survived the 9-layered heel, and that is why she's known as the Niner girl. I think you should all definitely read it. I'm not sure if I can say that out loud in this book, in this video. So yeah, this is definitely a book which I have included in my top fantasy reads of this year, because this is something out of this world. It blew my mind. I never thought I could read something like this, because I didn't think a book like this could be conceivable until I actually read it. This was quite good. Of course, graphic warning. If you think you can read it, then please go ahead. My review is also will be included in the description box, and yeah, hope you all enjoy this book as well. So we have reached the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video, and if you have read any of these books, don't forget to comment down below. And yeah, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and click on the bell icon down below so that you will be notified as soon as my next video goes up, because I have all of these wonderful videos planned for you as a part of the Bookmas. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy, and see you soon. Peace out.